For once, I'm making a video not out of the goodness of my heart, but in order to clear up a couple of things which incredibly annoy me online, aside from the pointless everyday arguments about how my YouTube name is spelled and how I so was not in the movie Synced. What really winds me up in the Counter-Strike community is how the average player adores the most pathetic maps. To justify this point, I made a map called Aim 5 Minutes, which I deliberately only spent 300 seconds on. As expected, more people downloaded it than all of my other maps put together, including the amazing Smash and Give Valley maps. This is the same in all industries, however, and is the main reason why the Sims 2 expansion packs are always topping the ladders over blatantly rubbish games like Call of Duty 4 and Crisis. My Aim 5 Minutes sequel, named Aim 50 Minutes, was a bigger hit. It only received 3 times the number of downloads, despite being at least a million times better. I found the answer on the aptly named noobrefuge.com, where I quote, "Come on dude, one's called Aim 50 Minutes, take a hint, games shouldn't take that long." So there, discovery one is that people are too stupid to understand the semantics of names and instead believe that someone's stupid enough to make a map which takes 15 minutes to play. However, the fact they thought it was a viable option leads me to believe that some map makers are stupid enough to carry out such a stunt, which nicely moves me on to point 2. David Johnson, the maker of Dust 1, Dust 2 and Cobble, aka Kibble, is supposedly a great mapper. However, this hasn't stopped him from making rubbish maps on Dust 1, which looks strangely like a Team Fortress map as you can see here, whose unfortunate terrorists allow absolutely no chance against the overpowered and over-positioned counter-terrorists. America might approve, but for Counter-Strike, this sucks. Kibble is surprisingly similar to Dust 2 in all aspects apart from the setting and the fact that everything's about twice the size that it should be. But enough of the moaning. Before I go any further, please can I just say that Dust 2 is by far the best map in existence ever. Bomb Sauté is the pinnacle of human achievement, Shortay is a work of art, and midsection allows for skilled players, like me, to seriously hurt the other team within 2 seconds of the round starting. If I was a remaker, I'd replace Long A with something a little more terrorist friendly, and would probably get rid of the whole of the wall into Bombside B and replace it with another entrance from the tunnels, hence making a B-rush far less suicidal. With those improvements, as well as the ability to customize the face of my player, I believe that I would quit college, work months a month to pay for my electricity and internet connection, as well as a month's supply of Weetabix and apple cider, and would sit naked in a darkened room playing Dust 2 for 18 hours a day, taunting every victim with a close-up of my player's customized face. There are a couple of steadfast rules that everyone must stick to when making a map. Firstly, it must have a catch. Second, a purpose. And third, it must be sunny. A catch is needed to get people to download your map. Something that makes it stand out, be it an amazingly intricate piece of architecture, a large pit, or in most cases, water. Think of it as a computer game, or even a woman. No matter how good the gameplay, if the graphics don't hook you, then you're not going to get hooked into the nice gooey core of the gameplay. Now when I say purpose, I don't mean to kill the other team over and over again. Counter-Strike can take care of that on its own. I mean an internal goal, something that springs out of thin air and sounds like a good idea. A bit like a tasty biscuit. For instance, Dust 2 makes me think high short A or bunny hop down mid and take out this damn B campus from the rear. While if I were to play surf maps, which I don't, I would get all excited about getting to the end first and knifing all those AFKers. To achieve this urge, your map must be balanced, containing areas with different strengths and weaknesses. I can't be bothered to describe what I mean, just go to Bombsite A of Dust 2 to see what a perfect design of excellence looks and plays like. Height is a fantastic invention, and levels with ladders and platforms everywhere will attract people far more than a completely dull aim map with no redeeming features. Unless the latter includes porn in the title, but that's just an unfair advantage. The third point I cannot stress enough, by far the most important aspect of all levels is for it to be sunny, which is why Dust 2 is by far the most amazing map ever. What about Office and Dust 1, you might ask? Office is set mainly inside, so it doesn't really matter, and as for Dust 1, the only reason that people think it's good in the first place is because of the sunny setting. Replace it with a cloudy sky and watch it drop into the demonic depths of Havana, which I will hastily urge people never to play due to its complex, confusing layout and horribly worn out walls. Which reminds me, why the hell do 95% of Half-Life 2's textures look as if somebody's attacked them with a crowbar? When making indoor sections, I can choose to lovingly furnish them with CS Office's lovely neat walls, or resort to making something which wouldn't look out of place in a brothel's basement. Having had a trek into the darkest depths of competitive CSS, I've come back feeling it was a wasted opportunity. All of the ladders we joined consisted of moaning players would use any trick in the book to reverse a 30-0 win to us, including bribery and hacking. Of course, my adept knowledge of all the rules led us to repeatedly pounding them to the top of all the ladders, wondering what all the fuss was about. It's like climbing a mountain, only to realise that you've got a horrible, boring and relentless journey down the other side to come. In CSS's case, all the clans we whipped were within an inch of their lives always cried about how we were nothing because we were not an enemy down. For the first time in my life I succumbed to peer pressure and signed up to this massive league, and for the first time in my life I completely 100% regretted doing something. In general, Enemy Down contains thousands of players all believing that eternal glory awaits them if they reach the top of the ladder. Of course they regret wasting thousands of hours of their lives that they could have spent on doing something useful, such as juggling or solitaire, once they realise that there's no golden chalice at the top and that the next 14-year-old clan will knock them off the top, mocking them all the way. They attempt to balance the karma in their pathetic little lives by telling every other player in the universe that happens to beat them that they are nothing in life unless they're an enemy down, and so begins this horrific pyramid scheme all over again. Because of this, I consider making D maps completely useless because the only people who will ever play them will either be the idiots in competitive ladders or those who like to play offline against bots. The former tend to prefer abysmal maps like Contra or CPR Mill, which both include shoddily tacked on sewer bits when the maker suddenly realises that their map design is way too simple. And those offline loners might be the nicest people on earth, but they won't be able to give me any feedback on my map, classifying them as useless. In short, I'm urging any of you who are interested in competitive games to think twice, as it isn't the be-all and end-all, and you don't want to be classed in the same groups as those who think Contra and CPR Mill are the only good maps because only CSS fanatics play them. I do pity those fanatics to some extent. The number of times that I've been accused of being a sad loner in life with no girlfriend almost surpasses the number of girlfriends I've had. So my advice is to shut up, because you're playing the same game and you don't know the backgrounds of everyone you're playing against, and what you're doing is comparable to someone going into a juggling convention with balls in their hands and saying that everybody else sucks because they can't play the guitar. However, unlike that comparison, you're not going to be annually assaulted by dozens of muscly Jason Garfields, meaning that cyber insults are for the weak and cowardly. I think that just about covers everything that winds me up in Counter-Strike. For the most part, it's a great experience where you get to meet random people online and play with them. In a good way. Making maps is equally as satisfying, as all it is just a box of textures, and yet it still seems to take on a personality of its own. In conclusion, I think that online gaming is the way forward towards world peace, but at the moment there are too many people just dissing everyone else on there, which I think is just rubbish. And cut.